Hello everybody and welcome back to the West Ham Network. Hope you are keeping safe and well as per usual. Anton here. And there's no... I'm going to introduce you to who you've probably seen on my side there, but you'll probably know him because if you've been listening to the mainstream media, you've been watching any other social media channels in relation to West Ham, you'll know who this man is. And we thought we'd bring him on and listen to a bit about the Hammers United West Ham. You know, we all know really what we're talking about here, the elephant in the room, which is the board. So Paul, thank you for coming on again. I know you're a very, very busy man, mate. I know you're a very busy man.
Yeah, I'm great. I'm really, really great, and thanks for having me on. Pleasure.
Yeah, no worries at all, mate. Listen, it is live, so keep the comments coming in. If there's any questions, Paul's agreed to do that. We'll go on for about 20 minutes because Paul is a very busy man and we don't want to keep up too much of his time, but it's very good to bring on and have a chin wag about what's going on and let people fully understand. It's about getting the message out there and letting people fully understand, because there's a little, sometimes I feel like, especially with social media, Paul, there's definitely a misconception sometimes about the approach. And I hope you don't mind me bringing this up, but you know, you're seeing people... Well, I'll tell you what, before we even go there, let's talk about what the plan is, what the reason for Hammers United and what the real end goal is, Paul, if you don't mind.
So, a tiny bit of background. I mean, let's go back 15 years when Sullivan took over. And one of the first things he and Gold did was to renege on a promise whereby season ticket holders who'd had a season ticket for 5 years got a 20% reduction the next year. Straight away, they reneged on that. And I suppose that was the start of things to come. Shortly after that, they had their 10 points, their 10 pledges. They're easily researched, they're easily Googled, and one can see that by and large, they've failed dismally. Point 7 is amusing. Well, it can make you cry, actually. Point 7 is to make coming to watch it enjoyable. And of course, thousands and thousands and thousands of supporters have walked away. We come right up to date, and of course we had last year when they tried to rip up the concessions. And let's face it, you know, they tried to rip up the concessions. They treat our loyal fans as expendable, and we're getting a ground filled with tourists. So we were inundated with requests for protest, and the catalyst for that, Anton, let's be frank, was the transfer window, because we had a very miserable season last season. Everyone knew, it's obvious, we needed massive expenditure to bring the squad up to scratch. That didn't take place. They spent 48 million net, which was the 12th highest spend in the division. But what made it worse was there was the usual gaslighting. They were making out we can't spend the money because of PSR. And over the course of the transfer window, it became apparent that was nothing more than gaslighting. And the reason they didn't spend the money was, quite frankly, the owners might have the money, but the club hasn't. The club has not got the cash. It's nothing to do with PSR. So we were inundated by our members for calls to protest. And we started, actually, before we did anything, a guy on the channel called 𝗛𝗏𝗏 had started a West Ham fans petition. It's only right to say that. Then when we meet Hammers United and our committee meets, we don't just make these decisions, you know, willy-nilly. We had on that meeting representatives from 4 other fan groups who we'd invited. And the decision was that we would start a campaign. It would be called the No More BS campaign, No More Brady Sullivan, No More Bullshit. And at much the same time, the Fan Advisory Board forwarded a vote of no confidence in the board. That's a big thing. You know, Hammers United deal very closely with Spirit of Shankly at Liverpool, Man United Trust, Tottenham, Everton, Man City, and they were absolutely amazed that the Fan Advisory Board had done this. So the club asked the Fan Advisory Board for a meeting, which took place. I can't speak for the Fan Advisory Board, but what I can say is they put very good points to the club. They put them robustly, they put them professionally, they put them vigorously, and the club will respond, I believe, next week. But what the club did then, they produced a statement. In my view, that statement was very poor. It was condescending, almost insulting, but maybe most importantly of all, my goodness, talk about pick holes in it. Obvious untruths. Now, I'll just pick a couple out, mate. For a start, their statement talks of they're proud of the current financial outlook. Well, look, the last accounts showed that we're owed 63 million for players, and we owe 190. Last season, Tottenham's commercial income had gone up 172 million over 10 years. Ours had gone up 28, and it'll be even worse now because that was last year. And one notes that I believe, I've not read it yet, I've just not had time, Sean Whetstan's been talking about, they're going to make record losses, and we're now getting, it looks like, set up for the PSR argument in January. So only a month ago, they're proud of the current financial outlook, and now we're getting whispers that it's worse than ever. They also talked, which is really quite, I just don't get it, of an average net spend, Anton, of 100 million per season over the last 3 seasons. Well, I've got it all written down, player by player. Okay? Over the last 3 seasons, the average net spend is 40 million a season. They're saying it's 100 million. So that statement, very, very poor. So now on to the protests. And firstly, let's be frank, let's be honest about all this. West Ham belongs to the supporters. West Ham belongs to the community. West Ham does not belong to 2 individuals desperately clinging to power who over the years have failed blooming miserably. So, firstly, away games. There will be balloons and flags at every away game at kickoff. At Arsenal, it was reasonable, but West Ham had contacted Arsenal and begged them not to let the balloons in and the flags in. That was confirmed by the chief steward in the away part of the ground. And when it was queried and said, well, balloons aren't a prohibited item, he said, well, they are for this match. Okay. Now, for the flags, by the way, you can get a 1-person flag, which is allowed in any match. And you get that by emailing howsweet, howsweet.jamie@gmail.com. So that's away games. Now, Palace, this is an interesting one. We had 3,000 there. Some said 4, but it was 3,000. Now, the static protest before the real big march that we had years ago, there were 1,500 there. There were double that this time. I'm not saying for any moment we're going to get 18,000, which would be double the last big march, but it bodes very well for big numbers.
Yep.
The boycott. Right. I'll come on to a few reasons that people are putting why not to boycott. But I'll tell you what, no one's putting the reason Sullivan and Brady are doing a good job. I've not heard that anywhere. You won't hear that anywhere because it's quite obvious that they're not doing a good job. Now, there are some that will say it will affect the team. And look, it's all a matter of opinion. It may not. But let's look at the facts. The facts are we lost to Palace. We got thrashed by Tottenham. We got thrashed by Chelsea. We got more points away from home than at home last year. And it's pretty obvious that will be the same this year. Okay. The best form our team has shown is when there's been no fans there. Simple as that. So there's no evidence to suggest that it will affect the team. Indeed, if I was facetious, and I'm not going to be, one could say the evidence is to the contrary. I've seen it on social media. What's the point? Well, I referred earlier on to them reneging on a promise of a 20% reduction on season tickets. The fans fought that, united and strong, and the club rode back. More famously, we had the bond scheme. We fought that, and the club rode back. Last year, we had the concessions, when they attacked basically the concessions for the disabled, the old and the young. And we fought that hard, and the club rode back. And, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if some of the people saying, what's the point, are actually people with bloody concessions tickets. And they probably said, what's the point then? Now, the other thing is, people, some, are saying, well, what's the point? They've already got our money. Now, I can't stress this enough. This protest, this boycott, is not about money. It's about showing the world a half-empty athletic stadium. It's about showing the mainstream press a half-empty athletic stadium, to bring even more introspection on the club, even more introspection on the failings of Sullivan and Brady. But actually, there is a financial spin-off, because as you will know, they have been virtually giving tickets away.
Yeah, you can see
Not
that.
just kids for it's not just kids for a quid. I think top price tickets are 15 quid or something like that.
Yeah.
And I know my people worked it out. You could be a loyal season ticket holder who's paid up front, yeah? And you could be sitting next to a tourist who's had a ticket for a third of what you paid for it.
Yeah.
And what they've also done, when they have these super duper whopper bopper offers, they're for single tickets. This one, you can buy a whole bloody row.
Yeah.
And obviously, you'll know they've been bombarding people with
I was pulling up my
email.
phone there. Text messages, emails coming in today, desperate to get us in the stadium.
They're desperate. Now, what will happen is, though, there's no doubt about it, because of these measures, they probably sold 5, 6, 7, 8,000 more tickets than what they would have done against Brentford if they hadn't done these measures. And also, of course, it's half term. So before the boycott starts, we're probably 7,000 or something worse off, if you see where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
But there is no doubt that thousands of season ticket holders are going to boycott.
Yeah.
Now, let's be quite clear about this, because people are saying about people pushing them around and bullying them and all this stuff. And it works both ways, incidentally. I'm getting heavily criticised by some people going into the game. Hammers United aren't going to moan at or dig anybody out that goes in. Good luck to them, okay? Hope they have a good evening. Hope they see a good performance. What I would say is, just ask our season ticket holders to just give it careful thought. Remember, the promises. Remember the statement, the seats would be no further than Upton Park. Remember the aspirations of a world-class team in a world-class stadium. And please seriously consider not going in. So the next match after that, because there'll be something at every match, there'll be a sit-in against
Newcastle.
Burnley. Let's get it right, against Newcastle. Sorry. And basically, it's an early kickoff. So if people sit in, they're not going to get home any later. We're not asking people to sit in for 3 hours or anything. They just stay behind for half hour, something like that. And then, of course, against Burnley, there's the big march. Now, we've met the police. I thought it prudent to take someone with us that wasn't Hammers United, which we did. And Dan Lawless came with us from Hammers West Ham Fans TV. I wanted to see other people see that it's not as easy as saying, we're going to march, fix bayonets and charge. You've got to meet the police and get it all done properly. We've done that. It will be stewarded. And I'll remind people that when we did the last march, there were nearly 9,000 there and not one arrest. And it was very much in a carnival atmosphere, a lot of children there, for example. It will start off from Stratford Underground Station, the main entrance at 12:30. We will be putting all the information out and starting with the Newcastle game. We've got 10,000 leaflets we're giving out then. So I think that's up to date on the protest. Our committee, and we'll be inviting guests as per, will be meeting in a week or so to decide what to do at the Liverpool game, for the next, and probably the next 3 games. So I think that brings you up to date. One thing I should say, sorry, I omitted, was that the march will hand in the West Ham fans petition at the main gates. And that can easily be Googled if you want to add your signature. You just Google Sullivan Brady out petition.
Yeah, I'll put the link in there. I'll put the link in the description.
Oh, thank you.
For anyone who wants to do that.
Like the Save Our Concessions petition, frankly, guys, it's bloody murder. You go in, it asks you for money, you just ignore that. You go in, you sign it, maybe share, but you get a follow-up email, which will probably go to junk. It's damn difficult, but it's the only way you have of doing these things. So maybe consider signing that. So I think you're up to date on the process. So if you want to ask me any questions or anything.
Yeah, and there's a couple of questions in the chat as well. But, myself and Paul had a kind of conversation beforehand, and I'd said where I'm at, and everyone on the channel in terms of what we do knows exactly where I'm at. And I'm just kind of jumping on the bandwagon with what Paul said there. We've had people say I'm going no matter what, I've paid my money, and I'm like, well, fair play, that's fine. another thing we're doing is, encouraging people, if they're choosing not to go, to make donations to the Iron Support and Food Banks. I know you guys at Hammers United are doing. Important. Yeah, and I know you guys at Hammers United are also doing the same. Really big encouragement. If you're not going, if you really are not going, I'll put a link into the description of Iron Support and Food Banks. Please make a donation there, and consider that as your big gesture. If you choose not to go right now and you think, I'm not giving the club any more money, then give it to a cause that desperately needs it. Yeah. Desperately needs it. So
the man that runs that is so committed. It's unbelievable.
John 𝗛𝗏𝗧, yeah. He's so committed to the cause. So please do that. And that's something else to consider. If I'm not going to go to the game, if I'm choosing now not to go to the game, make that donation instead. And if you're looking at the club sending through the text message thinking that's 15 quid, what could that 15 quid do for people locally? Yeah. And if you think like that, it might make the decision a little bit easier if you choose not to go. But Paul, when I'm thinking about the protest as well, it's very clear. I gave up my season ticket this year for the first time in 16 years. Considering I live in Scotland, I think that's a good haul of time that I've had a season ticket for travelling down. But, loads of factors, predominantly just getting disheartened with the whole situation, and have been for a long time. But it's clear when you're in that stadium or when you're not in that stadium, there are empty seats already. It's clear. Yeah. Now, with the protests, with an expectation that several thousand fans will not go, it will clearly be highlighted in that stadium. Big sections of white seats everywhere. And I suppose the main aim is, we're on telly, and it's about making that impact against the owners to let them know, listen, yes, you may run the club, but we're here to battle it. And you look back at protests over the years, you mentioned West Ham, but one of the ones was about the away day match tickets. I think Liverpool led that, about keeping the price to a solid £30. And it showed by being relentless and being as professional as you can be, how much of an impact that can have. Yep. People have asked me, what's different now compared to the last time? So I'll push this one to you, Paul. What is different now to the last time with these protests?
Well, what really changed everything was COVID. We had just short of 9,000, that's independently verified, on the march. Mr. Sullivan, through a solicitor, rang me and said, what can be done to call it off? And I said, nothing. All you can do is stop the next one. And we believed that we would get 15,000 on the next one. And then COVID hit. Now, these protests, they don't just come overnight. You have to build up to them. You gain momentum. And it was steamrolling, rolling along like it is now. And COVID completely took the wind. I will acknowledge that West Ham, of course, had a degree of success, and there is no doubt that if West Ham were top of the league, there would be less people on the protest. But every person on a protest when we're winning is worth 3 on a protest when we're losing. And I believe this time the fan base will see this through. Frankly, I don't know if we deserve another chance, but we've got another chance. But this is going to be the last chance. And if we don't see it through, we're in, the club will die. There's
and I think people, you've had it as well, Paul, and I've had it here or in discussions. A lot of people are going, well, what is it you want? And then I've seen Dan Lawless's chat with Simon Jordan on TalkSport. Who, listen, at the end of the day, we've had this chat as well, haven't we, Paul, about these mainstream media outlets are very good at drawing attention to their situation. So they're going to bring up situations and try and create a rhetoric around what they're trying to achieve, i.e. encouraging more people to phone up and pay them the money onto their stream. So he said something about, do you expect a new owner to come in and build a new stadium? And focusing more on that situation rather than focusing on the here and the now and the past 15 years.
Firstly, Dan Lawless is a good bloke.
Yeah.
And it's bloody hard going on that TalkSport. I know that. Okay. I thought Dan gave a really good account of himself. I have a slightly different view on that. That doesn't make me right or Dan right. Okay. We're on the same side. But let's forget me and let's forget Dan. What did the fan advisory board put? Okay. Yeah. And this is what they put. Okay. They pointed out that the chairman and the vice chair retain disproportionate power with no evidence of modern governance standards. Any organisation of this size and importance should have a full-time CEO. There's no apparent succession plan in place. Senior football decisions are concentrated in too few hands. Here we go. When will the club move to a professional governance model? A CEO, a director of football. Now, look, we would all love Sullivan to bugger off. He'll make millions and millions and millions. That's what we'd all like. But there is a fallback position here. And the fallback position has to be, okay, let's read it out. I've written it down for you. Brady and Sullivan to either resign or be removed from their executive positions and have no more involvement in the running of West Ham United, and for the board to appoint competent and professional replacements who will work in the best interests of the club and the fans.
Yeah.
They would have to have, of course, full autonomy. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a fallback position. And that is achievable. Sullivan could remain, we don't want him to, but Sullivan could keep his shareholding, because the problem we have is he'd be quite happy to sell, but he's valuing the club too high. No one's going to pay the price.
No one's going to pay the price he wants.
Which is why the gold shares are still there. But it would be for my members to decide, not me. As far as I'm concerned, if Sullivan stepped down and Brady stepped down, and they got professional people in to run the football club, then I think I'd be, well, I'd have to let my members decide, but I'd have an open mind on whether we were satisfied with that. Now, look, that's no different, Anton, than any normal business. In business, okay, if a business is not doing well and the directors aren't performing well and the directors are bloody incompetent, then the stakeholders remove them. That's business. No different to West Ham. Yep. These people are not fit to run our club. I've got a statement here. I'll have to read it out because it's too long. This is a statement of Karen Brady. Okay. You will find it on the website of the Institute of Directors. And Brady offers her 10 rules for being successful. And rule 2, this is Brady talking. I've met some leaders who have refused to hire good people because they worry they might put their own position at risk. These are my least favourite type of people. If you care about what you do, you want to employ the best, and that may well mean you employ people better than you. But in doing so, you will have shown your strengths as a leader. Now, perhaps she should practice what she preaches. The fact is that David Sullivan, Karen Brady have failed, and they continue to fail. And if this club's going to move on, someone has to take over the day-to-day running of the club. Yep,
100%. I've got a couple of questions in the chat for you, Paul. Sure. Avid is asking, how can I, as an overseas supporter who cannot make it to any of the protests, contribute? I've already stopped purchasing merchandise, but I'd like to do more. What's your kind of take on that? Because you've probably had approach from a lot of people.
Okay. Well, regards purchasing merchandise, there'll be an announcement imminently. I'm not going to say any more than that. But yeah, an announcement along those lines. And I'm not just talking about boycotting the club shop. I'm talking about something a bit more far-reaching than that. But what I'd say is, please promote the protests and the cause over social media. Join maybe the 3 biggest Facebook groups. I'm not going to name them. There's one obvious forum, the biggest one. Join that, and please, promote the cause on social media, on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. I thought TikTok was a mint, but we've now got a team on TikTok, and it's taken off very well. If you do TikTok, please follow us on that. So yeah, it's from overseas you can play your part.
And I think I think the key here is as well what Paul's saying, that no matter where you do it, if you've got that message to one person extra that didn't know about it before, then you've done your job, you know. And
Yeah.
if you believe in what's been said here, I've got many examples from loads of people that have that are saying that they want to go, they're still going to go, but they don't, you know, foresee, you know, they're not enjoying the situation. I also know people that aren't West Ham fans that have got season tickets, and I've had season tickets for 10 years at the club as well, which pains me because we're one of, I don't want to say it so blasé about, we've got so, you know, other examples of other clubs doing it, but it's very clear we've got clear examples of many people doing it as well. But just like Paul said, getting a message out, if you believe in it, sign the petition, getting a message out on social media, join the groups if you can, and yeah, we'll hear for the statement coming out from the guys that Paul just mentioned there. Another question was in Nuno's press conference today. He said he'd like fans to attend and everyone is entitled to make their own decision whether they want to attend or not. Regardless, it'll be half empty anyway. And I think people are saying it's Nuno's first game at home. And what does that mean for Nuno? But again, Paul, we've always gone by the etiquette of going support the team, not the regime. You know, that's my belief. You can support the team, and boycotting it, you've got the evidence to state that.
Well, I mean, the evidence
it works.
Frankly, the evidence is there. And I've said this before. It's not the reason that we're crap is down to Mr. Sullivan principally not getting us a new striker, not getting us cover at centre half. It's not whether the fans there or not. It's been proved. We don't have home advantage. We just don't. And the reason we did so well in bloody COVID was that all the teams that do have home advantage lost it because there were no fans there. We didn't lose it because we don't have it.
Yeah.
And the problem we have is here. Well, we couldn't call it off anyway because people had cancelled hotels, cancelled travel arrangements, so it couldn't be called off. But let's suppose we get beat by Brentford. Then people would say, well, you can't boycott the next one because we're in a relegation fight. There's never a good time.
Yeah.
And sadly, you know the phrase, no pain, no gain.
Yeah.
This is for the long-term future of the club. If these people are still here in the same positions next year, it's just more of the same.
Yeah.
We're just staggering around like a bloody zombie, just hoping to avoid relegation.
Yeah.
And when that happens year after year, Anton, your turn comes. And my big worry is that Bowen will get sold in the summer and we'll go down next year. That's what I think is going to happen. That's sad.
And there's plenty of comments in here saying that they feel, lots of fans feel like, you know, if it does go so wrong this year, the next Sheffield Wednesday's coming in. You know, I know I can understand the fear amongst the fan base because each year that teams drop, it gets tougher and tougher and tougher to come up. Yeah. And like you said, Paul, we already feel that we've lost West Ham anyway, let alone the fact that if you do drop into the division below, you'll lose a huge amount of fan base. We'll be sitting in a half-empty stadium, and that's why the rot will kick in even more. You know, and that's the worry. Avid Indoorsman is saying, what is the petition up to? Last I checked, we were up to just shy of 15k. I've not had a look at it, so I'll need to check that out. And
it's a little over that, but I can't. You know, I was involved with the concessions petition, and it got to 23. I reckon we lost 10,000 signatures.
Yeah.
You know, I went in the pub at Arsenal. I said, right, you've all got to sign the petition, and everyone said we've signed it. I said, well, look, humour me, have a look, and most hadn't. People think they've signed it, but they haven't because they haven't signed the follow-up. Those petitions are bloody murder, but there's no other way of doing it. Yeah.
Frog and a well saying just getting Sullivan and Brady beaks out of the club level decisions would be a big move forward. Yeah. And I think what you're saying there, and it's right, you know, people are saying is the end goal getting them out? Well, I suppose the answer to that question is yes. But there's room for movement there.
Yeah. I'm not disagreeing with Dan Lawless at all, by the way. What Dan suggested is what I would like to happen. You know, let's make that clear. I wish he'd bugger off and we get new owners in and build a new ground. Of course I do. I'm just saying them stepping down and being replaced by people on the everyday, that's a fallback position. And it would be for my members to decide whether that was good enough for them.
Martin here saying the Premier League is so awash with money that owners seem to be able to do what they like to detriment of the clubs and supporters. And you can say that again, Martin, you know, as a dad of 3 young kids who, you know, especially with my eldest son who's 9, he was very early days of Upton Park, like the last season of Upton Park, very young. But the first season to move into the London Stadium, the drastic difference of not a family club became very, very clear to me. And it was made to feel so unwelcome that it makes it harder to bring a new generation of fan base in to West Ham. And that's my biggest concern, Paul. That's why we feel like the club is dying, because how easy is it to bring young ones in?
You know, what the gentleman said there, sorry, it's gone off the screen.
Yeah.
They did away with our concessions, okay? We were told there'd be a 5% price increase, and we fought hard. And I was standing there every bloody week in the rain with balloons and banners, and they didn't do what they liked, did they? Because they reinstated the concessions, and we got a price freeze. If you fight, you might get somewhere. If you roll over, paralysed with apathy, then they can do what they like. But if you fight, we've had 3 big fights with these people, and we've won them all.
Yeah.
And people need to shake off the apathy and stand up with a bit of pride and be united, and we can beat these people.
Yeah.
We can.
Yeah, we can. On this one here, big problem is so many aren't local anymore, and I don't think that really makes to be honest with you, because I'm not local. I'm local through second generation. My dad's from Newham, but I'm not local. Wasn't born there, but made the effort to travel down. But I believe passionately enough to go, you know, if in advance I had booked things in advance, and it becomes tougher to book things in advance now when you watch the Premier League, because fixtures are changed, I believe now within 6 weeks notice. So this is why it's key that you guys at Hammers United are doing what you're doing by getting as much of the early messaging out there and giving people as much notice as they can, because that's becoming the clear message. A
couple of things on that. Firstly, Anton, we can't claim all the credit. There's a lot of other people doing a lot of hard work. Got to get that point in. Most people aren't local anymore. And when you have something like a march, it's not as easy, because a lot of the people that want to march are the people that have walked away. They're the ones that are pissed off the most. And because they don't go to the game anymore, it's asking a lot for them to come down from Wolverhampton or Scotland or wherever, and it impacts the numbers. But looking at our fans, just people I know, I won't give his name out because he won't like it, but there's a fella from Newbury. Do you know he's been to Old Trafford to see West Ham play 43 times? 43 times he's done Man United away, and he's from Newbury. And he's definitely one of them that I would consider, you know, the most loyal. There's another one, he's from High Wycombe, and he's much the same. So, of course, our heart is Plaistow and Canning Town and Custom House and the like. But some of these guys that travel a long way, when we did the last lot of protests, a friend of mine came down just to hold a bloody flag up and not go to the game. He came down from Dudley. And where Hammers United did something, we were alone, really. When we carried on the protests after COVID, we had a protest at every single away game and every single home game, although there was no supporters in the stadium, a legal protest with half a dozen. And so Leeds away, I'd have people from up there doing it, the Midlands, people from there. So there's a lot of our best fans don't come from the area, but I take the guy's point. It does make it more difficult, because you're saying come down on the march and someone's not going to the game and they're going to spend a fortune. I went up to Nottingham last year to protest, and it cost me 50 quid on the train fare to hold a bloody flag at Nottingham.
I was just about to say that you necessarily don't even need to, unless you live within a square, like, you know, a mile from the stadium. You know, traveling on transport these days is a bloody fortune anyway. So, I get it. It's tough. We all understand the.
We used to fall out of the bowling on a night match. We'd fall out of the bowling pushing midnight, and I came about the furthest from Hertfordshire, and most of the guys walked home. Yeah. But those days are gone now.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. Listen, Paul, I don't want to keep you too much longer. We've gone over half an hour. I'll leave the last kind of word over to you for anyone that's watching, anyone that's going to do it. The last message. I suppose we've got Brentford coming up, the protests Monday night. in front of the TV. Give her, just an overview or whatever you think is necessary. Your last word.
I'll be honest, I think I've covered it all. Please consider season ticket holders. Please carefully consider boycotting against Brentford. If you don't, and you go in, enjoy the match, but maybe consider sitting in against Newcastle or marching against Burnley. Those who go away games, consider please getting a flag, take your black balloons. This protest goes to the end. I can only speak for Hammers United, but as long as there's soldiers, as long as there's people to be on the ground carrying out the protests, we won't give up, because we feel, and I feel, that until we can get rid of Sullivan and Brady, this club will continue to die. And what we have to do is get them out of these positions, and then we can start rebuilding the club. And in particular, getting some, we won't get them all back, but in particular, try to get some of the fans back that have walked away.
I think that's
West Ham. Thanks a lot.
I think that's really key what Paul said there. We're trying to bring the West Ham that we knew once was back to the fan base, which we're desperately crying out for, and we need. And the rebuild is key, because as you said, Paul, when you listen to the statements that the owners put out on the website, clearly didn't put it out on social media. I don't know if you noticed that, clocked that, but usually when they put out big statements, they then release the link via their social media channels, but they didn't do it. They just put the website link just on their website. So it didn't even come out on Twitter, it didn't come out on Facebook, it didn't come out on TikTok. It was just a kind of like under the radar pat on the back, and then we'll kind of avoid that. But again, you could pick, I remember reading it when it came out, and it just made me angry, as probably many of other people felt, because you could pick so many holes. But please take the points that Paul said. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but if you can consider this game for Brentford, and if not, and that's probably a good point you said there, Paul, if you are going and you are made that decision, you're going, then consider the sit-in at Newcastle, because then if you are going, you're going to be there, and that can also send another clear message. If you've got the opportunity, please donate to Iron Support and Food Banks. That would help them as well. The link for all the details will be in the description for Hammers United. Will also be in there for the petition, the link for Iron Support and Food Banks. So please do it if you can. Paul, thank you so much for the time. I know you're a very busy man, so everyone keep an eye out for all the stuff that Paul's doing moving on forward, and fingers crossed we'll get a result on Monday.
Thanks a lot, mate. Cheers.
No worries, mate.
Bye-bye.
Cheers for that, Paul. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
So there you go, everyone. Paul from Hammers United. Short and sweet, but straight to the point. It's over to you as West Ham fans to make your choice and make your decision. I've been where I've been in terms of my feelings towards the owners of this club, and I'm not coming away from it. I chose to give up my season ticket, so in theory my protest won't count. I'm not going. I wouldn't have been going anyway. We're doing the watch along for the Brentford game, and what we're going to do is every donation, anything, is going to go straight to Iron Support and Food Banks. We're going to just hit that link in there to the Iron Support and Food Banks and raise as much money as we can for that cause. We obviously do a lot of work with them as well. But yeah, check it out. Fingers crossed. For me, BS out. No more BS. Hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, leave a comment, please do, and share this and let people know about Hammers United protests. Take it easy. Come on, you hands.